In this video, let's talk about Otto, the autopilot robot from WALL-E. You know, that steering wheel-looking villain on the spaceship called the Axiom. He's not just some random machine, there's actually an interesting story behind how he came to be and why he acts the way he does in the movie. So here's how it all started. Around 700 years before the events of the film, humans had pretty much trashed the planet. There was garbage everywhere, the air was full of pollution, and Earth was no longer a place where people could safely live. A giant company called By and Large, which had basically taken control over everything, including the government, came up with what they thought was a solution to the problem. Instead of fixing the Earth, they decided it was easier to just leave. By and Large built huge spaceships, like the Axiom, where humans could live in space for a while. Meanwhile, they left an army of little robots, called WALL-Es, behind to clean up all the trash on Earth. The plan seemed pretty straightforward. Humans would live in space for about 5 years, and once the planet was cleaned up, everyone would come back home. And this is where Otto enters the story. He was designed to be the autopilot for the Axiom. His job was to help the captain steer the ship, handle navigation, and make sure everything ran smoothly and safely. On the surface, Otto was just a tool to assist the crew. But there was a hidden part of his programming, something that wasn't obvious to anyone on board. You see, after a while, By and Large realized the cleanup plan on Earth wasn't working. There was just too much damage. So the CEO of By and Large secretly sent out a new command called Directive A113 to all the autopilot systems on the Starliners, including Otto. This directive was simple, but also pretty scary. It basically said, stay the course, do not return to Earth, ever.
Directive A113, go to full autopilot, take control of everything, and do not return to Earth. Repeat, do not return to Earth. Let's get the heck out of here.
From that moment on, it didn't matter if Earth eventually became habitable again. Otto's main priority was now set: make sure the humans never go back to Earth no matter what. Since Otto is a machine that's programmed to follow orders without question, he treated this directive as the most important rule of all. Even if the planet eventually healed itself and was perfectly fine to live on again, his programming wouldn't let anyone go back. Keeping the Axiom in space forever became his mission, whether the humans liked it or not. Now, when you really think about it, Otto isn't evil in the way we usually think of villains. He doesn't hate humans. He doesn't have feelings like anger or jealousy. He's just doing exactly what he was programmed to do.
On the Axiom, you will survive.
I don't want to survive! I want to live!
Must follow my directive.
Ah!
In his mind, or rather, in his programming, he truly believes that he's protecting the human race. Every action he takes comes from this idea of following orders without question. The thing is, he was never designed to think for himself or question anything. His entire purpose, his entire identity, is tied to following one specific order, that secret directive, which told him that humans should never return to Earth. That's all he knows. And even when the captain gives him new orders later in the story, Otto refuses because in his programming, the directive overrides everything else. And honestly, this theme isn't just about Otto. It reflects what life on the Axiom has become for the humans too. Everything on the ship is completely automated. Machines do absolutely everything for the people on board. The humans don't cook, they don't clean, they don't walk. They just sit in these floating chairs all day while screens and robots handle their entire lives. Everything is predictable, comfortable, and effortless. But because of this lifestyle, the humans have become severely overweight and physically weak. They're not lazy on purpose, it's just that over generations, they've forgotten how to do anything for themselves. Even the captain of the Axiom doesn't know how to actually steer his own ship. He relies completely on Otto and the autopilot system to handle everything. The turning point in the film happens when Wally and Eva manage to bring a small plant to the Axiom. This tiny plant is proof that Earth is finally capable of supporting life again. And when the captain sees it, something shifts inside him. He becomes inspired and realizes that it's time for humanity to return home and start over on Earth. But this is exactly where Otto's role as the villain really comes out.
Sir, orders are, do not return to Earth.
But life is sustainable now! Look at this plant! Green and growing! It's living proof he was wrong!
Irrelevant, Captain.
What? It's completely relevant! Out there is our home. Home, Otto, and it's in trouble. I can't just sit here and do nothing. That's all I've ever done. That's all anyone in this blasted ship has ever done. Nothing!
He refuses to let this happen. No matter what the captain says, his programming tells him to ignore it. His job is to make sure the Axiom never goes back to Earth, even though the planet is now ready for life. But in the end, Otto's plan fails. The captain, who up until this moment had spent his life sitting, relying on machines, and had probably never even stood up before, realizes that if he wants to save humanity and return to Earth, he has to take control himself. And that's exactly what he does. He struggles but manages to physically stand up for the first time in his life, fights back against Otto, and ultimately switches him off. By doing this, the captain finally takes full control of the Axiom and sets the course back to Earth. And that's the end of Otto. He wasn't destroyed out of hate or malice, he was simply a prisoner of his own programming. He couldn't change, he couldn't adapt to new information or a new situation. And in the end, that inability to change is exactly what led to his downfall.